you today, and we're going to be talking about 8 Wellesley over at Yonge and Wellesley. And we've got a lot of topics to catch up, so I hope you have your coffee. I hope you're ready. I hope you're excited, because I certainly am, to talk about one of the biggest launches that we have seen in the last 5, maybe even 10 years. This is one of the most exciting opportunities for yourself and your purchasers. For those of you that have joined us in the past, we welcome you back. We couldn't be more excited to have you back. And for those of you that are here for the first time to be a part of this presentation, be part of our presentation, we welcome you. And we want to start off with talking about what we've been able to accomplish as a developer, because it's so important for you to align with the right developer that can provide you and your clients assurities. So we have a great track record. We've been in the business for 10 years. We've had 16 launches, over 7,000 units. We've had 0 canceled projects, and we've had not a single day in interim occupancy. And that's just a quick rundown of what we've been able to do in a very short amount of time. And we've got an incredible pipeline set up for the future. So again, it's important for you to be a part of what we're doing, and we want to work with you. We want to align. Now, today's presentation, as I mentioned, is incredibly dense. We've got a lot of great topics to talk about, but these are the major takeaways. Yonge Street. It's incredibly how rare it is to find an asset on Yonge Street, in particular, south of Yorkville, south of St. Clair. And I do want to tell you that the market is thriving. We're going to use a lot of market stats to indicate that, and there's a lot to feel good about, especially heading into 2021, where I believe it will be the year of the condos. And I will definitely be able to give you some information that will give you that confidence. But more than anything, 8 Wellesley, it's going to be priced to sell coming out of the new year. We're going to do this right, and it's going to be the first major launch of 2021. Now, when I first started in the industry over 10 years ago, it was pretty obvious what Yonge Street meant to the city, to the real estate, and as the whole, we asked 100 realtors, what is the most valuable street in the GTA? And we all know the answer. The fact that I even had to ask that question is silly. And we all know the truth is 98 out of 100. And the truth is, I don't know where the 2 went. They might have been new in real estate, but 98 out of 100 said Yonge Street. Now, when I started 10 years ago, I didn't really need to go to Oriya College to know that. In fact, it was probably the first page that I read. It's Real Estate 101 when it comes to GTA. Yonge Street is where East and West begin. It's a center of our city driven by incredible public transportation and retail and commercial, okay? So there really is nothing like Yonge Street. And Yonge Street is the most important valuable city and the part of our city. And the reason why that is because it really does intersect all the major streets that define the downtown core, as well as the GTA. And when you intersect major streets like that, you're bound to intersect and be in incredible proximity to landmark locations, institutions, communities, and neighborhoods. So let's not forget the importance of Yonge Street. And the truth is, over the last 10 years, we've seen Yonge Street develop, and more we're seeing it become even more rare to see these launches come to life. And when you compare Yonge Street to any city in the world, it is world-class. It sits an incredible company. In fact, Yonge Street is very well known internationally, okay? So whether you're comparing to Park Avenue, or you're comparing to the Champs-Élysées in Paris, when you compare to Sheikh Zayed Road in Dubai, Oxford in London, Yonge Street is definitely up there and synonymous with being a world-class street. But one of the things that Yonge Street has that a lot of these other streets that are world-renowned is we actually encompass everything you could possibly want in one space. And that's what makes Yonge Street so unique. You'll never see a street like this in the GTA ever again. And I think that's what's important, is to really get back to the grassroots of what makes real estate so important, so valuable. And I'm going to tell you why it's so rare. Now, over the last 5 years, we've seen a number of launches. In fact, we've seen just under 600 launches take place in the GTA. Now, how many launches have taken place on Yonge Street south of Finch? And I choose Finch because the subway is such a major part of our identity, especially when it comes to condominium investment, all right, or even real estate values. And we've only seen 22 launches take place. Now, let's get back to the nitty-gritty, the downtown core, okay? I want to talk about Yonge Street south of Yorkville. We've seen 12 launches take place. That's only 2%. It's tiny, right? We've barely seen it. And the truth is, of the 12 launches, probably half of them you won't even see come to life, if you know what I mean. So it's that rare. Okay? In fact, it's so rare that it represents 1 in 48 launches in the GTA. And you're going to see Yonge Street launches dwindle south of Yorkville as the market grows because you just can't find land anymore. It's very hard. It's very scarce. Now, over the last couple of years, we've seen a number of 905 launches come online, and it's become a big part of our marketplace. And that's a great story because it's such a big part of our growth and our evolution as a city. But what I would have to say is 2020 would represent the largest market share 905 has ever taken from 416. And I think that's not just a COVID thing. I think that's a trend that we're seeing, and we're going to continue to see it. What is more scarce? Where is it harder to develop? And I mean this from a just purely downtown Toronto perspective, because the truth is land scarcity is a real thing in the core. We're running out of opportunities. It's becoming far more challenging. Whereas in the 905, there really is no land scarcity. It's virtually unlimited supply opportunities throughout the 905. And that's not a knock on 905 at all, but it's more about how rare of an opportunity do we get to invest on Yonge Street, south of Yorkville, in the downtown core. Now, there's a lot of exciting things to discuss. This past week, the last 14 days have been some of the most optimistic days we have seen in this market over the last 10 months. And it first starts with interest rates, okay? That has been such a big part of our story over the last 10 years, and I think we're gonna see that continue forward as we're not seeing any interest rate increases for a little while. In fact, they're the lowest we've ever seen them. And the second is we're starting to see international students get back into the city. And that's a big, big driver in our rental market. It's a big driver in our resale market. In fact, Q3 of 2020 was the largest number of rentals in the market that we've seen in the last 2 years by volume, according to MLS, okay? But the most important news is the fact that we are looking really good. Things are starting to look up and get a lot more positive as we start to find a cure for COVID. But the most important slide deck that we're about to see right now is the fact that our immigration policy is not just aggressive, it's more aggressive than ever. This year, we've seen over 125 new immigrants enter the country, and what we're seeing over the next 3 years is record-breaking goals, okay? Over 1.2 million in projected new immigrants to the country. Now, this is the single most important slide because this is the biggest driver of our market. Immigration has been such a big part of our growth, our expansion, our price appreciation. This slide alone should tell you what's about to happen in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years. So for those of you that are concerned, there's nothing to be concerned about because the government is doing their part. And this is such a big, big win for GTA real estate. Okay? So when we look back over the last 5 years and we look forward to the next 5 years, a lot of the things are the same, if not even more beneficial to us. We're getting even greater aggressive immigration policies. We have even lower interest rates than we had before. We are still the economic engine of Canada. We have seen just an incredible price gap growth between condo and low rise, and I'll get into that momentarily. But more than anything, we're going to see long-term undersupply because when you bring in 400,000 immigrants, with a large proportion coming to GTA, we simply can't keep up with this type of volume. And it's not in 10 years. We're talking about in the next year, in the next 3 years. And if we can only build 20,000 new homes a year, we're already behind the 8 ball starting right now. Now, for those of you in pre-construction, for those that are not as familiar, we've had a huge Q3, the biggest in our history. We saw 27 launches, including our 199 Church, representing over 6,600 units. And it's tremendous launch activity. And more than anything, we've had 6,300 sales, which is record-breaking, 30% more than last year. And it's the highest absorption rate we've seen since the Q4 of 2017. The market has never been better. And a lot of that has to do with you, okay? Now, what I've learned over the last 10 years since I've been in this business is that low rise has always driven the market. This is a really important part of this presentation because this is where I really believe 2021 will be the biggest year of condos that we've ever seen in recent history, okay? And the truth is timing is everything. Why this is the right time to invest in condos is because we're seeing such a disproportionate price gap between low rise and condo. And I'm going to use history. I'm going to use past historical stats to illustrate why we believe that and what it sets up for 2021. Now, in January of 2020, we saw a price gap between a semi-detached and a condo, roughly around $162,000, and with a detached home, around $400,000. And that's already quite big pre-COVID. We go forward 10 months, if we've seen semi-detached almost double in price gap. We're seeing the price of a detached, literally the price of a condominium. That's the gap. And when we look at these gaps continue to climb, and that's not a function of condominiums going down, that's purely a function of low-rise shooting up. And the history tells us that there's something really big on the horizon, okay? And the past often tells us about the future. And when we look back on trends, what we've seen before, we're going to see some pretty telling stats, and I'm about to show you right now. So we're going to actually identify the relationship between the price gap of a detached home and a condo lined up with the average GTA condo price. So bear with me. This may be a little bit complicated for you to pick up, but I do want you to just bear with me here. So this represents the price gap between the average sold detached condo and a detached house and a condo. And as you can see, starting from January 2016, it going into sort of the early 2017, we started to see some incredible price appreciation, right? That was our first peak. Then we saw a second peak, the price gap between a detached home and a condo price just reaching extreme levels. In fact, you know, if you look at this clearly, the gap was $700,000. And today, we're starting to notice a trend that is awfully familiar, all right? Very in line with 2016, 2017, and it's the sharpest incline in the shortest duration that we've seen in recent history. Now, let's drop in the price of the average sold condo in GTA, because there's a relationship here, because as the price of condos go up, you would assume that the price gap drops. Okay, so let's look at this together really slowly here. The tremendous price in the low-rise demand, or the tremendous demand in low-rise, just pushes up price rapidly, and we created a massive gap. And not long after, condominiums followed. So that's a trend number one. As condos began to catch up, what happened? We started to see the price gap shrink, which is okay. And what we saw was there was this huge demand for condos, and that fueled price appreciation. And you start to see the price gap shrink, okay? And that's okay, that's a healthy market. What we're seeing now is that in mid-2020, not very long ago, detached housing in the GTA saw unprecedented demand and price appreciation. So what does that tell us? The signs of the past market trends begin to form and look quite familiar, and that sets up the condo market to repeat history, and it's forced to play catch up once again. And I think that is such a big story that we cannot deny. So let's look back. We've got incredible immigration stories coming, and we're again, more aggressive than we've ever been, and that is the one-way ticket to a very thriving GTA real estate market. So that's the most important fact. We've got interest rates at record lows. COVID vaccine is looking quite positive, and our resale market and our pre-construction markets are thriving. Now, we've got this massive price gap, and I think that tells you a big story. And I really do, like I said before, 2021 will be massive. And not just that, 2021 will be the year of condos. And look, nobody knows condos better than CentreCourt. And that's why I'm going to get into 8 Wellesley. So for those of you that are still tuned in, thank you for being patient and getting to this point. But this is the most exciting part, because this is going to be one of the most iconic buildings we have ever brought to market. In fact, if I'm going to quote our president, it's the best location CentreCourt has ever brought, ever. And we've had some terrific locations. We are so bullish on the downtown market because of the land scarcity and that rare value, that we believe all of our purchasers in the long run are going to be in the best position when it comes to real estate investment. And I want to bring you back to today's takeaways, right? Young is incredibly rare. It doesn't happen often. In fact, I think in 2019, we might have seen one, maybe two launches along Yonge Street within 200 meters. Our market is thriving, and that is thanks to the broker community. That's thanks to everyone that's just working incredibly hard. And 2021 will be the year of condos. Mark my words, especially with 8 Wellesley, because we're going to be priced to sell as the first major launch of 2021. Now, I'm going to get into the building itself, location. I'm going to show you the key plate and show you the floor plans and what the next steps are. Okay, so don't go anywhere. For For those who are not familiar, we are on the northwest corner of Yonge and Wellesley. We're literally within maybe even less than 100 meters to Wellesley subway station. And this is one of the most important messages, is that, you know, the subway is the best amenity in the GTA for the future as we grow, because we don't build public transportation overnight. Now, as I mentioned, subway is just outside our doorway. Just to the north, we've got Yorkville. Just to the west of us, we have the #1 ranked university in Canada, the most popular university in Canada, world-renowned, U of T. We have Ryerson within 700 meters. We have the University Health Network, full of incredibly young professionals that make a high income, not very far away. Yonge and Dundas Square, one of the most iconic landmarks in the city, and the financial district, which is always such a big part of our story and our needs when it comes to investing in condominiums for the future. Now let's get into the building. It is one of the nicest buildings we have ever done. In fact, I will say it is the nicest building we've ever put together. At a location like this, we are going to put forth the best product we can come up with here at Center Court. And we couldn't be more proud of what this has really come together, how this has come together. And I'll tell you that our lobby, our exterior facade, our slope facade is one of the most unique setups. And I don't think you'll ever see this again in Toronto. And that's what separates 8 Wellesley from anything else. And we're putting together the best amenity programs for your buyers, for your investors, for our residents, to make sure that they are able to live outside of the confines of their space and be able to, you know, take advantage of those great amenity spaces. Now, and our interiors naturally are going to be the best spec we've ever had in the market. Now, floor plans are going to be an exciting conversation, because we couldn't be more excited to share with you what we're working on and what your investors will be able to pick up, or what your end users are going to be able to live in the next couple of years. All right. So remember, this is a draft. There may be some minor alterations, but overall, this is roughly what we're going to be looking at. So we're going to start from the smallest product right up to the largest product. OK, so the first is we have 2 studios, one facing north and one facing south. OK. Followed by a really nice a package of 1-bedroom suites, 5 in particular, as you can see on the bottom right-hand side. We have 2 1+1s. We've got incredible 2 bedrooms on the corners with incredible views, followed by a 3-bedroom on the northeast side. And what this key plate tells you is that, yet again, Center Court brings forward the most highly efficient functional layouts. Our key plate represents 90% of all of our suites, and we're priced to sell starting 2021 off just right. Now let's learn a little bit more about the actual building in terms of our timelines, what we want to know, key facts. So again, as a reminder, it's 8 Wellesley West. You'd be surprised at how many people think that we are 8 Wellesley East, that we're going to build on top of another condo building, but that's not the case. And we have 599 suites, over 55 stories, and we're going to be launching in early 2021. Our tentative occupancy date is 2025, which is nice. Again, we build really fast, and that's a great story, but this is a little bit more timeline. And what that's important, why that's important, is that what's going to take place in the next 5 years is massive, massive price appreciation, massive expansion in our market, huge demographics changing. A lot of people are going to come back to the city. For those of you that are moving outside, you're going to move back in, and employers are going to want you back in the office. And we're fully zoned. That's important.